Welcome to Bridging Gaps, the business podcast sharing the challenges and stories of fellow business owners.
Hello and welcome. I'm Deborah Levitt, your host, and this week I'm in conversation with Tony Robinson OBE. Tony is the micro business champion, and one of the key things that he does along with his partner, his business partner, Tina Boden, is to host the Micro Biz Matters Day, which is the 11th of January 2019. It is the second Friday of the year, so basically every year, second Friday. He does so much more. It's a really interesting conversation, and he's got such a full life. And one of the things that I really love about our conversation and around Tony himself is the fact that his life it's not business and personal. It's just his life. And there's all these different aspects of it that just come together to make him really happy. And he just sounds like he's exactly where he wants to be. So please join me in welcoming Tony Robinson. Thank you so much for taking the time to see me. How are you?
I'm brilliant, Deborah. I've just done the Great North Run on Sunday, so that was fantastic. And I'm always really motivated for a while with that. And my next one is the Yorkshire Marathon in 4 weeks' time. So I can get out running again in the sunshine in sunny Scarborough, where I am, very, very soon. So everything's fantastic with me. And you, are you well?
I am very well. Thank you very much. I'm happy to see the sunshine, though it seems to be disappearing as the day goes on, unfortunately. But otherwise doing very well, and think it's completely mad to be doing marathons. I have a friend who does them as well, and admire him greatly for doing them, but it's okay.
It's fantastic to do, because something like the Great North Run, there's 50,000 of us do it, and the atmosphere and the bravery is just absolutely fantastic. It's so inspiring. I run for Macmillan Cancer Support, if you don't mind the plug, but in memory of 5 much younger friends of mine that I stick on a red hat, their names and various things, and get going. It's just inspirational. It's absolutely a wonderful thing. So all the training's okay, because you've got the time when you're out there with all the other people doing it, and it's just it's magic. Really good.
Well, and I went up to watch my friend has run in the London Marathon, I think 3 years now. And so we went up to support him. I went up with his family, and it is, as you say, it's just inspirational, because not only are the runners supporting each other, but the crowds are supporting everybody. And I always feel that the people who don't have their name on their shirt are kind of missing, because, if you see somebody who's, clearly having a bit of trouble, then everybody, if they can see their name, they're going, "Go, John!"
Yeah, everybody helps. I mean, it's. I think a lot of people forget about things like their personal bests and all that kind of stuff once they get into this wonderfully supportive, fun environment. Really, I mean, there are some serious casualties always in these races along the way. But everybody would stop to help another person and, keep them going. And the crowds are just, they're amazing, and giving you jelly babies. I mean, I put on about 5 pounds, I think, taking all the sweets that I'm offered. It's like high-fiving. It's brilliant. It's really good.
So, Tony, I mainly know you from really seeing about all of the work that you're doing around micro business and Micro Biz Matters. And so it would be really great if you could start off just by sharing, what it is that you're mainly working on at the moment.
Okay. Well, I mean, what I'm working on at the moment is what I've been working on since January the 12th, 2012. When a wonderful woman called Tina Boden and I, with about 40 or 50 micro biz owners on a very chilly beach in January, on Scarborough Beach, where I live, and we started what we call the Enterprise Rockers Community Interest Company. to promote and champion micro business owners throughout the world, really, although Tina and I, obviously, our priority is micro business owners in the UK. And we wanted to create an informal movement that supported all of the national small business membership organizations, all of the local and regional business networks and things, but was there to make lives better for micro business owners right throughout the UK. And so basically, I spend all my time now leading with Tina that movement. We've both got to earn some money as well, but most of our time, at least 60% of our time, is actually given totally free to the movement. And it's writing, it's I run something called a Micro is Magic show, which is a keynote conference, and I speak in theatres and large business conferences and various things. And I do 2 of those free a month, if you like. And these are all ways of actually trying to level the playing field a bit to make it easier for micro business owners to make ends meet. And just very quickly, and the reason for that is that there's been, the government would claim, for example, that the employment figures are really at the highest record level, but that is only because the number of people becoming self-employed. All the new jobs are from new micro business owners in the economy, and yet somebody running a business like you or me, and I've been running my businesses for 30 years, on average, all the people that are running the business in the UK are earning 20% less than they were 10 years ago. So although there's a lot of hype about how wonderful it is, it's actually not a very level playing field for micro business owners. And we believe by us all collaborating together, and one of the reasons that our Microbiz Matters movement, is informal. We don't hold any contact details on any micro business owner. Don't ask for fees. You don't need to sign up to anything. Is because what we're trying to do is allow people to collaborate in the ways that they choose, but kind of like boost us all. So it's a lot of writing, it's a lot of speaking. I mean, I do write fiction and various things to make money as well. I do lots of other things as well. But, the majority of my time goes into doing whatever I can. And so probably as well as something like our annual Microbiz Matters Day, I'm as well known for something like Pay in 30 Days campaign, because debt is the biggest killer of any micro business owner. And the average wait is 72 days, which is people can't survive 72 days without getting the money. So, I campaign as well as try and, get people to understand the reality.
So from my perspective, the term microbiz or microbusiness, it is actually something relatively new, and people are still tending to think of themselves as a small business, though there is a shift more to going, no, actually, I'm a micro business. So what actually defines a micro business, and how did that, I guess, that differentiation between micro and small come about?
Well, I think that's a really crucial part. Understanding that is a really crucial part of what we do and why we founded the Microbiz Matters movement in 2012. Basically, I'd been involved a lot with trying to help devise and improve the skills for people starting a business. And the term that was used by government and throughout the UK, certainly up to about 2012, even though there was a definition of micro business, which I'll explain in just a second, but they were regularly talking about small and medium enterprises. And the definition is a small business is under 50 employees, and a medium business is 50 to 249 employees, and a large business is 7,000. So when people were talking about SMEs, they were actually talking about small and medium enterprises. They're actually talking about 99.6% of all businesses in the UK. Now, that doesn't make sense. People, it doesn't explain what people think of as a small business. What they think of as a small business are the 1 in 6 of us with either no employees to 9 employees. 96% of all businesses in the UK are micro businesses between 0 to 9 employees. The majority of them are self-employed without any employees at all, 70% of them. And that's what people think of, I think. I don't know if you agree. That's what people think of as a small business. They think of the corner shop. They think of the pub. They think of the designer, the hairdresser, the butcher, the baker. No, seriously, they think of people with less than 10 employees. Think of all the people that are virtual assistants at the moment. So really, the phrase is used by governments and the phrase small businesses is used by governments and things in a fairly misleading way, because they'll say small businesses and the press will say SMEs, but they're not actually really talking about what we would think of as a small business, which is a micro business between 0 to 9 employees up to 2 million turnover. I mean, that's massive, isn't it? 0 to 9 employees up to 2 million turnover. And the point is that what we're trying to do is provide a lot of recognition for how important those micro business owners are. All the innovation comes from them. All of the great work in local and regional communities comes from them. All of the charity work comes from them. The 7,000 large businesses in the UK's contribution, that's over 250 employees, is minuscule to our society, to the people, as against the micro business owners, which are really the small business owners of the UK. So that's it.
Well, and I would agree that when I think of a small business, I do think of the one-man band or just a few employees. And when you look at the definitions and you go, well, actually, it's up to that many. I wouldn't have thought of that as a small business. So differentiating from micro to small makes sense, because the problems that and challenges that I would face are different to the problems and challenges that somebody with more employees and all of the structure that goes around that growth have. So it makes perfect sense to me anyway.
Absolutely. And we're very, very pleased that people like you, Deborah, are asking that question now, because we do think that one of the things we've done over the 7 years is we've corrected people using the word SMEs and small and medium enterprises, and say, well, what are you doing for micro businesses and micro business owners? And people are beginning to use the word. And that's why my show, for example, is called the Micro is Magic Show. So it's like fairly simple, but it's really important that we do that. And
it just, again, helps to make sure that you're focused on the right audience, I suppose, and you're targeting the right people. So
absolutely.
In your show, Tony, Micro is Magic. Mm-hmm. Dare I ask, Is it a magic show?
No, it is. It uses the word magic in terms of, I genuinely believe that it's the best way to earn your living is by starting up and running your own business. It's not for everyone, but I actually think it's magic. And I use it as well because, unfortunately, a lot of people have tried to create this entrepreneurial thing into a kind of mythology, really. And so, right from books being titled Magic, like Rhonda Byrne's follow-up to The Secret was called Magic, about the power of the law of attraction. If you think you're going to be successful, then you are going to be successful, that kind of stuff. If you think $200,000, then you'll get $200,000. To The Magic of Thinking Big, which is a book. There's lots of people that have created this mythology around enterprise and entrepreneurship. And mine is saying, well, actually, there is some magic, more like how J.K. Rowling calls magic, which is your imagination and your ability to actually conceive of things which by very, very hard work you'll actually love doing to make ends meet in your own business. So that's a long explanation, but really it's a little bit. I write satires as well, so it's a little bit of a way. But everybody think I do say at the beginning. Unfortunately, I wouldn't do any magic. But it's also, I don't know if do you have any interest in magic and various things? Do you like magic? Have you seen magic shows?
I've seen magic shows, and I guess I've got, I suppose, a normal level of interest in terms of if I see one on, then I'm, interested to see what they're doing and wondering how they do it, but I'm not, completely into it.
Okay. Well, there is a tradition in magic, which is one of the things that I'm trying to continue on with my micro business champion label, and that is that magicians earn their money by fooling people and allowing people to fool themselves. And basically, along the way, there have been many people that have tried to claim that they've got psychic powers or that they can do this. And well, there's a whole tradition of magicians that actually recognize the trick that's involved in those people, actually psychic powers. And if they get too successful and they get to the point where they're dangerously misleading people, which regularly happens, then a number of them will actually call them out by showing how the trick is done in a magic way. They won't actually reveal it because that would be breaking the code of the magic circle. So there's a whole tradition. Penn and Teller is a name you may have heard of, and they've spent their whole life doing that. Derren Brown is in the UK, and he's incredibly well known for doing that. And the person that they're all following is somebody called James Randi, who had $1 million and has $1 million reward for somebody that under scientific conditions can show that they can bend metal or they can, contact life in a different place and various things and mediums, etc. And he'll travel the world, if you like, to let people actually do that. And of course, nobody has ever won the $1 million because, of course, for example, if you're a medium and you don't get any reaction from somebody as you say something, then the medium is totally lost. And so, what I'm trying to do with micro business owners is separate what I would consider, they look like ladders, things that you climb up, and they look as though they're going to take you going, but really they're actually snakes. They're based on myth. It's a trick. It's actually a trick to make you buy something, buy their book, come to their talk, take their business opportunity, sign up to their program. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I am actually following a kind of line of investigating what is myth, what is reality, because the best thing for a micro business owner is certainly have a positive mindset. All in that, I think I am a positive person. I enjoy life. I feel very, very lucky for everything that's going on. But mindset is only part of it, for example, if you like. It is not the be all and end all. You will go and see a speaker in an audience of 10,000 and you may have spent $4,000 for the 5-day program. And at the end, you will feel very uplifted. But the figures will show that you'll find very, very, very few, or minuscule, about 0.5% perhaps, have actually changed their behavior to an extent that it has made a difference to the success of their business. Whereas I'm saying there is another way, which is the micro is magic way. And I explain that I'm doing it with a cast of thousands because I literally have thousands of real life business owners that have used the micro is magic way, to actually start and run their own business and happily make ends meet out. They may not have all become millionaires, but some of them have, Some of them become billionaires, but they all were micro business owners at one point in time, and they were all doing very, very similar things.
And as you say, just I guess to pick up on a couple of those. So one is there is so much information out there right now, and there's so many people who are saying, if you just come to listen to me, I'll tell you how to do this. And,
yes.
and it's really easy to get caught up in spending all of your time, learning from all of these people, and then coming away, in my view, quite often confused because one person said, you have to do this. And the next person said, no,
yes.
do this. And all you've done is take on a lot of information, but you haven't actually found the way for you. And then I think there's also that.
And we are each unique. That's the point you've just made there. I haven't found something for me. And that's because there are these generic, it's show business, really. Do you know what I mean? It's giving the audience what they need. And that's the way to sell tickets, the way to sell books. It's the way to get on television. It's the way to, as I say, sell business opportunities. There's a whole direct selling and franchising industry out there, for example, that has to do this. Otherwise, nobody would take their franchises or their direct selling distributors. But what's right for you? What can you do? How can you enjoy life? Because if Brad Burton, who is an interesting speaker, I don't know if you've interviewed Brad. Have you?
No, he's on my list of people to contact because I've got a connection to him, but I haven't as yet.
Well, Brad is kind of like you might think he's similar to some of these other big speakers. He fills all the conference halls in Britain. He self-titled himself Britain's UK #1 motivational speaker, and I guess he is really. But he's actually very, very realistic, and he often starts his presentation by saying, if you could, choose between two of health, wealth, and happiness, which two would you choose? And everybody would choose their health and happiness, wouldn't they? And that's what I'm about with you as a micro business owner, you being able to choose the best way of living your life and running your business.
Well, and that's absolutely, just so true. And it's one of the things that I've been trying to do with the guests that I get on, is that I've got a mixture of people who are, I guess, at different levels of success in terms of people's perceptions of them, because I think success is different to all of us. And if I want to be a millionaire and that's my definition of success, that's fine. But equally, if I just want to earn enough to give me a lifestyle that makes me, happy, then that's absolutely fine. And I think redefining that success so that people aren't trying to achieve something that is somebody else's definition, and that they're going, no, actually, I am successful. And it doesn't matter that I'm not a millionaire. It doesn't matter that I don't have these things. What matters is that by my definition, I am successful and I am happy. And hopefully by bringing people in who are at those different levels, people are going, yeah, actually, well, they are successful. And it's not all about money.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, one of the reasons that the show exists is because I paint the contrast between the American way of doing business, which of course is all wealth orientated. That is the real issue. My father, for example, started his business. He died at 57. So he had 7 years in his own business, and today he'd be lauded as a massive entrepreneur. But he actually started it because he had a emphysema, which he eventually died of, and so he had to work from home. So he created a business that he could do from home for health reasons, if you like. But that generation never thought in this way, that success, they all just thought they were business owners or doing something to make ends meet, look after the family. Yeah, do you know what I mean? They didn't think it was this special, neither was the girl. Great wealth. He actually was very, very successful, but he never thought like that. It was only the American way that eventually came along over to the UK. And then, of course, since the internet and since we've seen all these positive people and all these thousands of messages all promoting the American way of what, but you know, at the end of the day, the UK is 17th in the World Happiness League, and the US is 16th in the World Happiness League. Both countries have far more depression. I was looking at the list of EU countries for today on life expectancy of women, you know, and life expectancy of women in just in European countries were about 15th or 16th in the UK. Nearly every millionaire entrepreneur I've met from America is, you know, spending huge amounts of time with their psychologists and various things. The workplace at our most successful American companies in the UK and elsewhere around the world, like Amazon and McDonald's, are two of the world's most successful companies, but they have more strikes, more depression, more, you know, they pay poor wage, you know. So the Jeff Bezoses of this world and everybody in America thinks, you know, they are the superstars, aren't they? But, you know, what price for health and happiness?
And I think it is a really difficult balance. And, you know, one of the things that we talk a lot at the moment, which is great, you know, we're talking about mental health a lot, and that people need to be open to it and to discussing it, and that it shouldn't be, you know, something that you're trying to hide. But then I think of the business side of that, and I think that there is a natural worry, you know. So if you're trying as a big corporate to, you know, your goal is to make money, that is what you are there for. If along the way you happen to make somebody happy, or you happen to do such and such, but your goal is making money. And so trying to balance the fact that somebody's got a mental health issue, and being open to having that discussion, but also balancing the fact that, hang on a second, is that going to impact my bottom line? I think is really tricky. And unless that measure of success for that company shifts, and is maybe actually a company is successful because they're making a profit, but they also have all of their employees happy and healthy, that it's almost I can't think of the word, a paradigm. Is that right?
Yes, yeah, it is.
Yeah, where they're going in different ways. Because as you say, you know, those huge successes are at a cost to the people who are supporting that success.
Well, I mean, and that is the reason that you and I, if we take on employees, are better employers. You know, and this is just factual. People stay longer in micro business owners if they're happier. They don't get necessarily incredibly high wages and things, but then they don't in those large companies going for massive profits. It's only the junior management and upwards that you know, get the big bucks. And, you know, as E.F. Schumacher, who wrote Small is Beautiful, said, you know, those large corporations will never say enough. They will never stop creating profit and wealth. They'll never stop paying themselves more as directors and CEOs. 30, 50 times is the, 50 times, I think, is the, say, McDonald's and those companies, difference between the directors and the staff, 50 times, it's incredible. Whereas a micro business owner, you look at all the surveys, they're not that interested in profit. They're actually interested in making ends meet, earning something. They don't want to make big corporate. They don't have shareholders that are saying that they should make big profits. Yeah, they're totally happy. And what's encouraging for us all is that the kind of millennial generation, everything says that, well, actually, they're not that interested in that. They want to make a difference. They want to do something fulfilling. Yeah. So that's why we are better places and better people to work with. And, and you don't have all this clutter of I did postgraduate HR and became an HR director and various things. And in the years before, I've been running my own business for 30 odd years. So it was a long time ago, but it still doesn't alter the fact that you've got, things like performance appraisal systems and, control. Well, that doesn't happen in a micro business. All those things the government says about productivity are usually ways of making people have horrible existences in the workplace, So micro business owners are much better to work for, really, and healthier and happier environments, really.
And generally, I think as well, they inspire more creativity because there's more flexibility and openness to doing things or trying things in a different way.
Oh, definitely. I mean, I think that's the most of the innovation comes out. The large tech companies are just looking to buy up, aren't they? Kind of things that go, that go. So basically, the innovation comes from people in their homes, really, coming up with different things and being creative in various things. But it's definitely a case that working in a large corporate, they don't allow people, really. They might be interested in entrepreneurship. People ask me to speak on it and things like that, but they're not really. They're not really interested in the maverick. They're looking for people that will actually play the corporate game and play the corporate rules and various things. When I became managing director of an American multinational subsidiary, they wanted me to. I was 32, I think. At the time, they wanted me to shave my beard off and only wear, and those kind of things don't work with me, So it was I managed it for a while, but they want you to play the game in a certain way. They've got a brand to look after, and they really don't want the flexibility. Whereas the most important thing for me and you, and this is just fact, is as always trying new things. It's testing new things. It's not relying on one simple income stream like me with my speaking engagements and you with your podcasts. You've got to keep innovating, testing something, see if it works, and then creating other income streams. And it changes year to year. I don't know any business owners at all that haven't had to change many, many times. So, in order to make ends meet.
And with technology changing so quickly as well, what you have to do to manage that and to deal, so if you look at podcasts, even the ability to do a podcast and to put something out when, sitting with a microphone and your laptop is not something you would have been able to do however many years ago. So all of those things just evolve. And as you say, being able to look at it and go, yeah, I want to explore that and I want to take advantage of it, or at least testing it and ruling it out if it's not right for you is I think necessary as well, because otherwise you miss the boat.
And it's incredibly important that people like you that have had the experience of starting your business and growing it in whatever way you're doing can actually tell people that are thinking about starting the business what the reality is like. The fact is that probably nobody's first business idea is the one that they will be doing in 3 years' time, even, that they started off with. A business plan, which everybody says you must have, hasn't actually been shown to actually improve your chances of success at all, because it's a learning by doing kind of thing that we're doing, isn't it? And it's like, it's not done in a room and coming up with this light bulb moment and that's all going to work.
Yeah, it just, I know that it does work for some people, but it does evolve. And as I mentioned to you when we were chatting just before we started, I had no intent. When I started doing the podcast, I had a very long-term view on it, and I was really looking at inspiring other business owners, which for the podcast itself is still my objective. But I've now discovered that actually I want to turn my business and do more work around podcasts and to make that into an income stream and to support other people in doing it, which is completely unexpected. So as you say, it wouldn't matter what the business plan said. It did not have podcast training and production anywhere on it. And being flexible and able to try that and to speak to people to say, yeah, is this worthwhile? Is something that as a small business or a micro business that you can do and can embrace.
And it's one of the reasons why what makes the biggest difference between people surviving 3 years and unfortunately not surviving and ending up with some debt, which is really bad in today's environment. I mean, I'm so old that, a bad credit record wouldn't even appear. Do you know what I mean? But a bad credit record now is a terrible weight on your back if you can't continue to run your own business and a self-employed person and you've got a bad credit record, then it really is a tough place to be in. But what will make you successful? 86%, and this is why this is in my show, but it's never talked about, is two things. One is bootstrap, don't borrow, because you cannot be certain at the beginning. Yeah, does that make sense? Don't borrow, and test trade. Try and find a way to see if your idea or what you're doing can actually get a customer. Then talk to that customer and talk to other people that have got customers like that and various things. And you'll actually find that is like those two things alter the whole success rate. They double the success rate of people by them testing. It's far better to start off a business while you've got some other income coming in. For example, I know that's obvious, but how many people feel, no, well, what I've got to do is I've got to pitch for funding and I've got to do that. And then they have this fantastic euphoria. I've got the money. But the success rate of those that actually get investment or funding or borrow is minuscule. I mean, it's absolutely minuscule, the ones that actually survive. And that's why they talk about such low survival rates at, say, Harvard and places like that, because all their people in the best business schools in America are told to have a pitch deck and pitch for funding and all that. Of course, once you've got that, and it's an incredible pressure, and people in Silicon Valley, they don't care about how many people burn millions of pounds as long as they find one that makes success. But what of all the people that have, so.
And this is something I was talking to, their software provider that I'm looking to partner with for some of the podcasting things. And she was talking about how their company is really small and that they've got no intention of going out. And she said that there is so much money floating around at the moment that getting investment would probably be quite easy, but they want to control their growth and manage it and make sure it's sustainable. Because I think if you go from having that I'm just barely surviving, or, my business is quite small. And suddenly you've got all of these millions, piling in. The scale up and the ability to actually cope with that, and to have a business that now has more people in it, and you maybe haven't figured out your management skills or any of those things, I think must be a huge challenge. And so there's the excitement of, oh, I've got all of this money, we can go do everything we wanted to do. But now you've got to manage these people. Now you've got to do something. And you've got these people who are looking for a return on their investment, who are sitting there as well. And, I could completely see her point about going, no, we're just continuing to grow gradually and organically, I suppose.
Yeah, I do a lot of judging, as you can imagine, for things like Entrepreneur of the Year awards and various things like that. And it always really worries me, the ones that have got this, they say their success is because of the investment that they've got, or various things. But in actual fact, the ones that will succeed and be happy and healthy, and as healthy as you can, because a lot of luck involved in it as well, I know, and have a good life and be good for society and their families and the communities and various things, are the ones that grow out of their own money. And the one thing that is most precious to them is controlling their own destiny. Once you bring in an investor, or you take money, then there are other people either taking a slice or telling you, no, don't do that. That's, you can't do that. And yet the one thing you've gone into your own business, the majority of people, it's what the statistics say, is what the research shows, is actually to control my own destiny, is actually to, be flexible in how I do things, if you like, and do things in the way that I want to do, that feels natural for me and my family and my community and my kind of thing. And that becomes an incredible pressure. And it's interesting that we've literally interviewed hundreds and hundreds of micro business owners since 2012. Obviously, there's 60 to 70 business owners, including micro business owners, on every Micro Biz Matters Day that we're interview, or in panels and things. And I don't know one that we've interviewed that has got rich quickly. And I don't know one that is still here, and the majority of them will have had their business, even some like Chris Percival, who, is only 25, but he's got a, £40 million business. But he started that, as a 16-year-old, and he built it to a level while he was at university, if you like, and all of them, they just wouldn't sacrifice. I mean, I once was lucky enough to, I once had Lord Sugar as a client of mine. I was lucky enough to spend a lot of time with Gordon Roddick. I don't know if you've heard of Body Shop and Anita Roddick, but anyway, all I know is every time a business owner like you or I has got to a level and has sought investment or gone public for the shares and various things, they've always quickly wanted to buy it back because they're no longer happy in their own business. And I said at the beginning, the J.K. Rowling magic of things, and like Dickens said, all these wonderful writers said, it's actually the imagination. It's actually your own, that's the life. It's a life force, is your own imagination and creativity and various things like that. And if you take that away by being controlled by investors and bank managers, Charlie Mullins, the millionaire plumber, who's our micro business czar, he's got a £30 million plumbing business, and probably much bigger than that, to about 250 staff. And but he won't actually allow a bank manager on his site at all. He calls them crooks in suits. Now that is a business owner, yeah, that is a business owner view. So and he nearly lost his business, like most people I know. Kanye King, who's a friend as well, who helps on my business, she actually, like many of them, actually were willing to sell their house, or downsize. I've done that a couple of times in my career, to find my own money to do it, or remortgage, or do anything, but not to be in the control of somebody that could affect my business as such, because that's mine, that's part of my life, kind of thing.
When you come out of corporate, what I found really interesting is that a lot of people, as you've said, they come out and they are starting their own business to have that flexibility and freedom. And what seems to happen on quite a regular basis is that they almost initially start to recreate that corporate environment. So they're almost trying to behave as a corporate and head themselves back to the corporate. And some of them then do kind of, recognize what they're doing, and they take the step back and think, what am I doing? Because that's what I'm trying to get away from. But I always think it is quite ironic that we're trying to get away from it and then start driving ourselves back towards it again, but feeling that it's different because we think we're at the helm.
Yes, absolutely. I think that I think that's absolutely true. I think that lots of us think, because it has been defined that way, that leadership and management is a kind of, it's a career in itself, obviously, to become a leader, to become a manager. And the things that you do as a leader and a manager in the corporate world are good for business. And that's one of the reasons, Dr. Ciroli, who has probably created more successful environments for people to start up and businesses, actually says that's because that comes from a paternalistic viewpoint, which actually, it's either paternalistic or patronizing. It's people either treating people as servants or children, if that makes sense. That's the kind of leadership and management that we're told, because if you want to progress through a corporate career or that pyramid kind of structure, then these are the things you've actually got to do. Unfortunately, it doesn't make a slightest bit of difference. In fact, it could actually hold you back starting and running your own business. People start worrying about procedures and processes and various things rather than conversations with customers and people actually feeling so delighted that they'll tell other people about how delighted they were. I know it sounds very simple, but running your own micro business is about customers and cash flow. All the other things have got, they're of some importance, but in the corporate world, you can get to the top of the corporate world and you can be so distant from a customer in a conversation with the customer. Yeah. You may never meet the lowest paid people in the organization, may be the ones to talk to the customer. The most important thing is you to spend the majority of your time talking to potential and existing customers.
And as you say, having those relationships and conversations with them and understanding what's worked for them, what hasn't worked for them is just critical. And again, as you've said, in that corporate, you can be so remote, and even in a business with sort of up to 50 or 250 or 249 employees, that distance starts to come in. Somebody told me a while ago about a business where the owner was trying to put processes in and was getting really frustrated because his employees weren't actually following the processes. And I said, well, that's because he's the owner and he's no longer the doer. So he actually doesn't know what the right process is. He's basing it on from when he was doing it, when it was just him. And that distance, you need to recognize it, don't you? That if you're no longer the doer, this is where your expertise lies.
Oh, definitely. I think that, all those people that I've talked about and many, many more, they are, it's a trust thing, I think. They rely. The business owners that build the really, really large businesses and have staff. I must admit, myself and my business partner, Claire Francis, we actually decided about 15, 18 years ago. Secret to our success is we've been in business 32 years and we we lived 200 miles apart. So that's why I was so successful. But we actually decided, because it was the pressure on Claire and various things, we decided a number of years ago that we wouldn't have staff anymore, and we'd create a business so that we didn't have staff. We'd provided employment to lots of people, and that was fine. But in actual fact, we found that we weren't enjoying the business because of that. But to take that against that, many of my friends as business owners and many of these famous people that we interview on Microbiz Matters Day, the one thing I would say is that they recruit people that they trust, and they don't actually interfere in what they do, because they're bringing in people with different skills, not their skills. They're actually, they know what they're good at. And, Charlie Mullins, can tell you how to satisfy a customer as a plumber. Yeah. Mm-hmm. He is not brilliant at financial management. Yeah. His whole success was based on the fact that he got into trouble financially, and he wanted to create the situation where the customer would know that the plumber couldn't leave the premises without them paying them and being satisfied. In other words, you don't get presented with a bill that you pay some other time and various things. And it was all based on the fact that a plumber knocks on the door. I know this sounds absolutely basic, but you've got to realize that this is the premise of a huge business, starts probably charging more in prices than any other plumber, loved by the whole of London, absolutely fantastic. And it all starts with a plumber being there at exactly the right time, in fantastic uniform and various things, looking very efficient, not late, not early, absolutely right time, that said there, in and out as fast as possible. And you've been told how long that particular job will be expected to last. No cups of tea, nothing, no mess, absolute cleanliness, and has accepted the payment by credit card or however it may be before they actually leave the thing. And that was originally, it was a way of actually making sure that he got paid and didn't have lots of debt problems from the plumbers he was using, and to get the standard. But it's customer delight at a service level that very few plumbing businesses have ever been able to get anywhere near. So he knows that, and he knows the business of plumbing. But the other things in the business, he takes on people that he trusts. A lot of them might not be that's another thing I find, is that a lot of people that are micro business owners will take they won't recruit in the same way, because the trust thing is more important than anything else. So they'll take a recommendation from a friend, or they'll bring in a family member to help them, various things. But they're looking for additional skills. Does that make sense? From people that they can trust, rather than as you say, if they go back to the corporate control thing, it could be a disaster.
Yeah, exactly. And as you say, you do need to, because if you're running your own business, there are so many skills that you have to have, and to recognize that actually this is one that you might have been doing because you had to, but it is not your skill set. And hiring somebody to fill that gap is really important. And apart from anything, it alleviates the pressure on yourself and helps you to progress in your company, to progress generally.
I think the other thing that links to that as well is that you should always be developing income streams, and multiple income streams, if you like, because they will dry up. What you may have a good run of something, but even in the plumbing business, you might find that Charlie Mullins has now got carpenters, heating specialists, every type of trades and various things is now within the Pimlico Plumbers brand and umbrella, as is merchandise of all sorts of different sorts. He's got trade shops and various things of selling equipment and things to the trade. And to all I'm saying is that, that's doing things in a complementary way. But I think you've also got to be incredibly flexible. And so therefore, the less, you're tied in by the processes you've set on the one thing, you're unlikely to be let's just try that. Because all these people that I know, And I would say myself and people that have, are just happy that I've managed to earn my own living for 32 years with my, fantastic women business partners that I've had, and my wife's been able to carry on as a librarian and do the things that she wants to do. Those are all fantastic, fulfilling ways of spending your life. It may seem small things. I'm incredibly proud that I've earned my own living. I've never needed benefit support. I've managed to do it for the last 32 years, running our own businesses. And the beauty is that, and the beauty of most micro business owners, they'll try something, and if it doesn't work, they'll move on and they'll try something else. And, sometimes you may even have to, I remember doing lecturing in colleges at one difficult time and things like that, you might have to do things but running the business, staying in the business was the most important thing, and it will come back around. But you might have to do some things I do mentoring sessions I'm a director, volunteer director of the Enterprise Agency, helping startups in the Yorkshire coast region. And I do these kind of little sessions like coffee and chat with the chief executive and the business come in. And I really don't know for all the time that I'm doing it, that you actually meet somebody that is only got income coming in from one thing. Like they may be a furniture maker, but they're actually doing some part-time cleaning even. It doesn't really matter. The bit that they really enjoy is making the furniture, but they, or they do some counseling, but they'll find ways of actually making ends meet and staying in their own business.
And it is that, as you say, looking for those alternative sources which are going to supplement and allow you to keep doing what you want to do, as opposed to becoming the only thing that you do. Tony, Can we go back a little ways? So I know you said you've been running your own businesses for 30 years. But prior to that, I'm just curious about, because you also said you were managing director of a company and they wanted you to shave your beard and fit their sort of, model of what a businessman should look like. So I'm just interested in how you came to decide, to start up your own business and how that felt, and maybe some of the challenges that you went through, not just with that business, but with others that you may have started up since then.
Yes. Okay. Well, I mean, basically, I'm very proud of the fact that I do write fiction and I do write various things. So you won't be surprised to know that my father died, and I should really have made the decision to get involved in the family business. So, but my mother, who was also running the business, got a wonderful legacy from my father, and she got about 7 years of worth of customers for the future, if you like. But obviously it would peter out. And she knew that I hated the concepts because I'd had to work in the business from being 17, even when I was in school. So I went to do an English degree, in English and American literature and philosophy and various things. And it was only after doing a temporary job that I thought, after I did lots of jobs, but I did a temporary job in a large American corporate, that I thought that the area of HR management and human resource development was actually quite interesting. And I was particularly interested in industrial relations. And at that time, because it was a long time ago, industrial relations was a big thing. I've always liked being a bit the focus of attention in a work kind of way. And somebody actually breaking strikes and negotiating, getting win-win deals and various things was a lot of pressure. But the only way to do that was to get very highly qualified. So I actually took an 18 months out to do postgraduate stuff. And then I actually moved very, very fast through corporate ladders, really. So I was with a big computers and terminals company. And then I was headhunted to a massive American direct selling industry. That's the one I became, direct selling business. And that's the one I eventually became managing director of. But I'd always, through this corporate thing, I'd been literally in HR, you can imagine it, seeing hundreds and hundreds and thousands in some cases, a whole factory in Dundee, we actually closed, being made redundant, losing the job. And it was certainly coming to the point where there was just no security in corporate careers. And, I really didn't like that. And I also didn't like the ethics, particularly, of some of the things going on. Maybe I'm a bit soft, but I just didn't like some of the things I was being asked to do. And the only way of actually that I could see that I could earn a living and do something really good was as soon as I could to get out of it, put the whole corporate career behind me. I was very lucky. I was asked to, which is good from a bootstrap, don't borrow test trading point of view. I was able to recruit my successor as general manager, and I was persuaded to work out a year's notice. And my person who was personnel manager in that company, Claire, was also my best friend, one of my best friends now. And I came up with the concept, and she felt exactly the same, to come up with a business concept. I mean, I won't explain too much of it, but basically that first business concept didn't work at all, particularly. It was a really tough first 2.5 years, as I've now come to realize is the case for the majority of the people. But it really was a thing where I found that the stress is more in doing things you feel uncomfortable with in the workplace, than it is to do with anything else. So, I mean, the money was just, I've never earned as much money since, we're talking 30 years ago, never earned as much money since. And it's great traveling the world, business class and various things like that. But I haven't enjoyed it as much as the last 30 odd years, starting and running our own businesses and doing things. And, it's your kind of achievements, and it's good. And you're doing it in a way that's good for your families and the community and other things. And a way into that, I actually founded an organization in 96 called SVEDI, which is the Small Firms Enterprise Development Initiative Group, which also has the Institute of Enterprise and Entrepreneurs. And I founded that with all the small business membership organizations in the UK to improve the level of startup training and various things. And it had very large funding from governments and the banks and all the various things like that. And I'm still a co-owner, and obviously I'm still the founder of it. I'm still a co-owner. But I then decided 2012, to bring you to the start of our interview, that I didn't like being in the establishment either. I was now being asked to do things for government money that, even though it was my own business, and and I was still carrying on my other business. I've never been an employee of anything. Does that make sense? I was only, I was giving my time to this thing that I'd founded. It was obviously, but I was now being asked to do things that are purely political, really, and that didn't feel comfortable with me. And so that still continues, and is still doing great work, and it's good, and I'm still a co-owner of it. But I'm now, I'm doing exactly what I want, Deborah. I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but I love it. I am just doing everything that I want, and I'm hopefully trying to make a bit of a difference for micro business owners too.
Which is absolutely fantastic, because I think that's all we can ever ask for, is to be making a living, doing exactly what we want, and making a difference for other people. What more can you ask for? How do you, so I know obviously part of your, downtime is obviously spent sorting out your collection of hats and getting new ones.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, absolutely.
And I can
I'm a hat addict.
I gathered that from the collection I see in the background there,
Yeah,
and the one that was on your head over the
yeah, yeah.
headset when we
Yeah,
started.
yeah, yeah. This one, yeah, yeah. So,
Yes.
yeah.
But I can also see in the background, it looks like some guitars and things like that. So what do you do to, give yourself that balance, or that, that downtime to enjoy yourself and to make sure that you're looking after yourself personally as well as the business aspects?
Yeah, and I think that's very important. I think the first thing is that all of us as business owners have got to look on our, as much as we can, our personal well-being and our family's well-being, because have you ever come across a psychologist called Albert Ellis?
No, I haven't.
He's well worth a look, Deborah. He's regarded by the World Institutes of Psychology as the second most influential psychologist ever in the world. But the reason he's often not being that popular is because he helped people by them doing homework, to actually alleviate anxiety and depression and various things like that. So what he did was, going way back to what the Greeks did, and various things like mindfulness is very popular now. And his psychology is all about how you react to situations, and that's where it all comes about. Rather than like the goal setting, and then people actually going into mass depression because they've it's actually about how you react to the moment, kind of thing, which is very, very popular, and you set people home. And that's how I actually feel. So I've always been really, really keen on sport. I mean, I love sport as much as business, and so I love theatre, and all types of theatre, all types of performing arts, from the magicians to the opera at the London Opera House. And my business partner of those 30 years enjoys a lot of those same things. So, for example, I visited her in Milton Keynes, or near Milton Keynes, Woburn, a few weeks ago, and we played tennis 4 days and was swimming for 4 days. I mean, I know that may sound crazy, but it was as good as a 2-week holiday abroad, because we were talking and chatting and doing things that we wanted to do, and kind of thing, and long walks and stuff as well. So theatre, sport, I watch an awful lot of sport. And then you've got it on the cultural side. I love the whole stuff. So I've got my guitars, and of course I don't actually find writing hard work, because that's something that I'm always trying to improve. And it is a bit like a musical instrument, writing. In some ways, you are constantly, I've got friends that are in orchestras, professionally for 30 odd years, but they never stop trying to, they enjoy the process of doing what they're artists. So, writing I find fantastic as well. So, I'm just very lucky. And I live in paradise. That was a major decision, to just enjoy life. And we moved from, even though it would mean me commuting to London every week, we moved to Scarborough on the Yorkshire coast 19 years ago, and nearly every morning I can be seen jogging around the seafront, seeing the sea. And it's just, do you know what I mean? It's the very simple things, but it's just like really important. And I think the business bit is just part of my life, really, rather than being the sole focus of my life. And the time that Tina Boden and I, who founded Microbiz Owners, we don't just give it to our microbiz movement. We also give, she does far more than I do. It's one of my heroines, but she gives it to, the Lifeboat Institute's brain tumor, and this is practical stuff. The things that we do are not like just making a donation. They're actually raising funds and getting things together. And that's not work either. Does that make sense? You're actually doing things. Well, I am doing something that's a bit useful, and it's great when that happens. So,
No,
very varied.
it's really nice. And there's a couple of people I've spoken to who have said that rather than having work-life balance, that what they're looking for is work-life integration, which is where they are doing things that makes them happy. And I think it's what you're describing, that you're doing all of these
put the work into your life.
Yeah.
Don't actually, that work-life balance seems horrible. It's like, that's the advantage we have as business owners, is that, you can choose the times that you work. Number one, why choose 9 to 5 if that's that's because you've been tuned into the corporate world that says everybody works 9 to 5. Well, you'll actually find that your customers may actually like the times that you work and that might be absolutely convenient to you, or you can build a business so that the times that you want to work, you're available for the kind of customers that you've got the right offer for. So build it into your whole thing. I mean, one of my other heroes is a guy called Tim Campbell, and he was the first apprentice winner in the UK, and he supported the microbiz master, and he's very rich. He's absolutely incredibly rich because he's got some amazing global ambassador positions for very large organizations. He's got 2 or 3 of his own businesses. He's got a wonderful charity form called Bright Ideas Trust. But you'll never really see him talking about work. He's always talking about his family and the things that he's doing. He does, ultimate martial arts, kickboxing. He looks incredibly fit, puts hours and hours into that. He helps with getting gun violence off the streets of London. Do you know all the things that he's actually, so he's very, very good at what he does for people that give him money, but his life is based around the things that are really important to him, which is his family and the community and his friends and his ultimate martial arts stuff. And it's absolutely fantastic.
And I guess that's the thing, is that if you're starting your own business, it is remembering, and I do hear this a lot, but it is remembering your why, and your why about what you want your life to look like, and trying to build towards that rather than somebody else's preconception of what it looks like. So as you say, if those are the things that are important to him, the other businesses and things support him in doing that, but he knows that that's what's important and what he wants to achieve ultimately, which is fantastic.
Yeah. And I mean, we've got to build our, I'm not decrying the fact that we all have to build our skills as much as we can in the things that we do that will help us make ends meet, in Tim's words, for our families and for everything that we want to do. So we do have to invest some time into improving our skills, and so that we can actually, get some money for the skills that we provide. But that is all part of life's rich fabric. It's not work and then and then play kind of thing.
So just before we wrap up, Tony, is there any final thing that you'd like to say to maybe people who are at an early stage in their business, or are aspiring business owners? They're thinking about starting up their own micro business.
Well, I would say 2 things really. One is follow at Tony Robinson OBE on Twitter, because every day I'm just putting out things that other people have found helpful, and that might help them, to a podcast that might help them, or a YouTube video of someone, or just connecting with another business owner that's in a similar field to them that might be useful chatting to in various things, or I might just give them an idea. I would certainly say make sure that you surround yourself with customers and other business owners in a similar kind of thing. It can be by Skype. So if it's it's hairdressing or whatever, then you're not going to be necessarily talking to a hairdresser in Scarborough if that's where you're based, but you can talk to somebody in Bournemouth. Or no, you've got to actually create a little network that's your little support network around your business of people that you can talk to. And it's better talking to people, frankly, that understand exactly what you're doing than it is a coach or a mentor. Or a lot of these people that are ex-bank managers, for goodness sake. But a lot of people earning big bucks have just been in the corporate world and actually haven't experienced what you're going through. And then thirdly, it's only once a year, but look out for Microbiz Matters Day, because once a year, on the second Friday of every year, we run the biggest social media event in the world for micro business owners. And basically, it's free, no contact. All we ask is that you give a small amount of time. It's January the 11th next year, Friday, January the 11th. So all we ask is that you give 11 minutes on the 11th to actually help another micro business owner on that day. And what you've got around the world is just lots and lots of people. There's lots of other things. There's live broadcasts with, lots of business owners that we're interviewing and all sorts of things going on. But the most important thing is just to give a little bit of time on that one day to help somebody else that's running their own businesses, and just get involved. And you'll find that by you helping other business owners, that the collaboration will start. It really will. And, Tina Boden calls it the power of plenty. The only way that we can actually compete is by actually not thinking that we're in competition with each other. We're actually in competition with some much bigger forces. We won't go into it, yeah? We are in competition, so we need to collaborate and help each other to make ends meet and succeed.
Thank you very much, Tony. It has been a real pleasure speaking to you. And hopefully we can speak again, maybe just before the Microbiz Matters Day in January. So thank you.
Perfect. Thank you.
With Tony Robinson OBE. Don't forget to follow Tony on Twitter at Tony Robinson OBE for lots of great information and potential contacts and collaboration with other micro business owners. And also 11th of January 2019 is the next Microbiz Matters Day. It's no cost, social media, huge event. So make sure you check it out. I will put all of the details into the show notes for you. The number of people listening to podcasts is increasing year on year as people look to break free from their screen and consume information on the go. If you'd like to know more about podcasts, then please go to whatsthisIhear.bridginggaps.uk. Are you considering your own podcast? Why not check out So You Think You Want Your Own Podcast? It's an online course that introduces you to everything that's involved in hosting a podcast, as well as working with you to define your own podcast concept. You can get more information on it at startyourownpodcast.bridginggaps.uk. Bridging Gaps, the business podcast, was produced by Deborah Levitt of Bridge Road Consultants Limited, with original music provided by Pete Dineley.
You've been listening to Deborah Levitt on Bridging Gaps, the business podcast.